So let me bring up the article here.
And, oh boy, here we go.
This is,
oh no.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but this is the article I posted.
DSA.
Democracy!
At DSA 2023 convention, delegates resolve to remain faction of the Democratic Party. And then I'll read the little snippet that I have here along the right-hand side. By a vote of 704 to 184, the convention passed a resolution on its electoral work, which declares, and here's a quote, "It is not advisable for us to form an independent political party with its own ballot line at this moment," end quote. And then I continue. On this basis, the delegates resolved, quote, that DSA commits to making electoral politics a priority for the next 2 years. And then they also go on to say that DSA will continue to pursue an approach of tactically contesting partisan elections on the Democratic Party line. And that is, those are the two biggest points of this article. We're going to read a little bit more of it, but those are the two biggest points of this article. So the headline being what it is, does the headline surprise anyone?
Just
about
look at all the socialism.
Recommitting?
Look at all the socialism. Look at it. Beautiful, right? Ridiculous.
I'm just trying to think. For those that would be let's say there's somebody that follows this, the DSA, and what they do, the inner workings of what they do. Would you be following along some of the stuff they've done and then think that this last vote has been a great difference in the things that they've done in the last
right on brand
year or so? It would be like it was. I would say it would be right on brand. So
I actually have a story. I actually have a story about DSA. So I mentioned this on the on the morning show, but in 2018 there was a governor's race and there was a candidate named Daniel Biss, and he was looking for a lieutenant governor, and he went to pick Alderman Carlos Rosa, to be his lieutenant governor. In 2018, the DSA had their convention here. They were with boycott, the investment, and sanction. And Rosa was all on board with that. But as soon as Daniel Biss found that out, DSA, and he was associated with DSA, Carlos Rosa was, Biss removed him, and DSA was totally upset. Like, how could you do this, Daniel Biss? You are our pick. You're supposed to be the progressive running against Pritzker and trying to beat Bruce Rauner. They were all upset. And I was reading that article, like, holy cow, did they do a 180 on their Israel-Palestine stance? Like, wow, that's not the same DSA I remember in 2018, because they were ticked off beyond belief when Rosa was no longer the lieutenant governor pick for Daniel Biss. But of course, then Pritzker won. Of course, billionaire, has the most money. So yeah, that's a thing to remember.
So it sounds like, do anybody have any good stories about the DSA?
No.
Like, no. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this is great. Listen,
it's a Democratic Party cutout. It's a Democratic Party cutout. Here's the story.
When Daniel and I went to the DSA convention, or cover any kind of DSA events, or even have them on our radio show back in the day, it was like pulling teeth with those people. Mm-hmm. Like, they were so paranoid and scared all the time. They're like, you're not conservative media, are you? Or either that, like, not want to interview. It's like, well, how are people going to know about you if you're not going to be interviewed by anybody? Mm-hmm. How is it that you're a leader of an organization or a chapter and then you don't want to talk? That's so freaking weird. Or then I remember some DSA people saying, I bet you guys are trying to cover us so you could build a bigger name for yourself. Like, no, we're here to shine a light on people trying to do good, but obviously you're wasting my goddamn time.
Yeah.
I remember one time Daniel was just like, you know what? Why are we even covering these people? I'm like, I don't even know, Dan.
Brandon in the chat just said DSA is NSA's cousin. That is controlled opposition. That is the definition of controlled opposition. Anybody who still takes the Democrat or the DSA seriously is very naive.
Well,
all right.
Misty, we need to form a committee to do a vote on how you feel.
We got to have a meeting to form a task force to fill a committee so that we can have a vote on a task force to do a committee. Yeah, we got to do all the things.
And CJ, we need you to form a committee for a blue ribbon committee so we know who to give it out. But first, we have to vote on who can be part of your committee.
Yeah.
That's the DSA. That sounds like so. Just a full disclosure, Eric London. I think that's the author writer that Sabby interviewed. Yeah, that Sabby interview, and it didn't go well. So just understand. So I'm saying that to say, what we can factually know for sure is that the DSA decided to stay with the Democratic Party and stay with the electoral politics on the blue team. Now, if he says some other things that's not verifiable, I don't know. In the article, we'll see. Like, I don't know if this is the exact vote number. You know, I'm just saying, I don't know. So, but let me read. At the DSA's August 4th through 6th convention in Chicago. So they had it again in Chicago, huh?
I didn't know about it, but it's like, God, you know, I think I'm pretty much blacklisted from DSA.
They don't like me at all.
Delegates gather in person to restate the organization's half-century commitment to promoting the imperialist Democratic Party. By a vote of 704 to 184, the convention passed a resolution on its electoral work, which declares, quote, "It is not advisable for us to form an independent party with its own ballot line at this moment." And actually, let me skip over because this is what I read earlier. So let's skip over to what I haven't read. All right, so the DSA will continue to pursue an approach of tactically contesting partisan elections on the Democratic ballot line. And the DSA will, quote, "allow for more volunteer involvement in national electoral work to promote the Democratic Party in the 2024 national election." The convention consistently rejected several amendments that would have held DSA elected officials to even the mildest political accountability, exposing that the DSA's claim to be left of the Democrats is merely for show. So it sounds like there were several amendments. I can't remember the one in particular I wanted to bring up that was rejected. I'll remember in a second. But it sounds like there were some amendments to maybe have the ability to hold people accountable that, let's say, vote, you know, for funding Israel, vote for funding some war, or you know, does stuff for NATO. But those all were rejected. And let's continue. Delegates votes to allow DSA members to break strikes support imperialism. Delegates reject by a 60 to 40% margin a proposed amendment to the electoral resolution, which would have added language, quote, that it is DSA's expectation that socialists in elected office would vote and act in accordance with core principles of the socialist movement. Wow, they couldn't include this mild thing here.
Nope.
That's not even anything specific. Just what core principles.
It's
like
words.
It could be left open for interpretation what a core principle is. Wow. So, but let's continue. Though this amendment also acknowledged that a majority of DSA members do not believe it is possible at this time to form an independent political party with its own ballot line, delegates evidently still found it too extreme. In rejecting the proposed amendment, the DSA has resolved to support Democratic Party politicians no matter how far right-wing they are, and has explicitly stated its hostility to socialism. The rejected amendment would have required the DSA hold its members accountable if they vote for measures which explain or strengthen the police. Wow. vote for any restrictions on the independent action of the working class, such as the right to strike. Wow, they couldn't put that provision in either. Or vote for military budgets. Of course not, because they just voted for Ukraine. Mm-hmm. The imperialist war machine or military aid to U.S. clients states such as the apartheid state of Israel. So none of these amendments that would say, hey, let's hold people accountable for voting to fund the military industrial complex, voting to fund the apartheid state of Israel, voting to break a strike. None of these cleared the threshold of any of the DSA members, or not enough for those amendments to be included, which to me says a lot. The DSA is merely a reflection of what AOC is, just a complete sellout, and it have fully embraced the corporate blue team. And to me, this is just another sort of nail in the coffin of the DSA. This is why they lost over 10,000 members last year, and it was underreported, but they lost 10,000 members last year, quit 10,000 members. It was some chapters that the National would contact to get their feedback on something, and they never responded. That's what happened to DSA, and it's because of actions like this, and these actions they're taking is why DSA is in a condition that is in. I'll get all of your sort of final remarks. We don't need to read the rest of the story. We know the bottom line. They voted to stay inside the Democratic Party. They also voted away several sort of amendments that would hold these elected DSA members accountable. But what say you, Kit, and then we'll go to Misty, and
I got something to say.
Anthony's back there.
I got something I got to say. First of all, in that article, what the hell was the Socialist Majority, which is a right-leaning group in DSA that was able to make sure that there would be no criticism towards centrist corporate Democrats? What the hell? DSA, I remember interviewing your members way back in the day and asking, would you ever turn your political organization into a political party, a third party that people could rally around? And all of you were saying, oh, yeah, we could. We just need more membership. Who's going to be a sucker enough to support your group? Who's going to be dumb enough to go into their wallet and pay you guys money? We know one thing. The DSA is designed to be a puppet for the Democrats. And if you associate yourself with them, then you might as well just say, hey, I'm a Democrat through and through, and I don't believe in anything I say. Hey, Bernie, once again, another cuck organization. They learned from the master, you.
And Misty, what say you about it?
To be fair, they sucked long before Bernie Sanders.
Yes,
DSA is always, in my opinion, has always been a Democratic Party cutout. They've always been that sort of controlled opposition to filter leftist energy back into the Democratic Party. They've always done that. They've always been weak sauce there. I honestly don't know why anybody has ever taken them seriously, just based on their own track record. They don't do anything. It's a social club. It's kind of how I used to feel about the Green Party. And maybe Cornel West will be able to change that around, but the Green Party's been kind of a joke for a long time. They don't really do anything. And when I've tried to work with them on several different things, same with DSA, and it's more about I think social status, like, oh, I'm a DSA member or whatever, and they don't ever actually do anything of substance. So this is not surprising. I mean, anybody who's been paying attention to the DSA knows that this is par for the course. This is exactly who they are, what they stand for, and that's all they're ever going to be. Don't give them your money. Don't volunteer your time for them. It is a waste of time, money, energy, and resources.
Yeah, and I can't agree more. And Anthony, I don't know how much of that article you got to be able to hear, but before you respond, I just wanted to show everybody what Kit was referring to here. There's a part in the article, I didn't read the whole article because it's a long article, but the Socialist Majority Caucus, that's the name of a caucus within the National DSA. It's a group representing the most explicitly right-wing fashion of the DSA. It tweeted that its caucus is excited that the provision that would force DSA to criticize socialist elects who endorse centrist candidates was eliminated. So they tweeted that they were happy that's over, or that was not passed. So they tweeted about it. This article though also talks about suppressing the debate on the NATO war against Russia. So I guess these are all things that happened at the convention. Here's another headline: suppressing debate on Palestine. That was another resolution not allowed to be debated on there. Promoting trade union bureaucracies and praising UAW democratic elections. So these are just some of the other things they talked about in this article. But Anthony, what say you about DSA's renewing their commitment to being a part of the Democratic Party and explicitly voting not to form an independent party at this time yet again? What say you, sir?
The DSA has shown yet again that they are not aligned with the needs of the working class. Therefore, they are an enemy of the working class. You can be on one side or the other, and you've got to choose. They chose. And I agree with Misty. Do not volunteer for them. Do not retweet them in their messages. And don't give them your money. Mm-hmm. Enemies of the working class are fine with 68,000 Americans dying every year because we don't have Medicare for all. They are therefore my enemy because I'm not fine with that. And all the machinations, this is all just the smoke and mirrors. The bottom line is they don't want to stand up for the working class. That's okay because we have a candidate who is willing to do that. I don't put all my eggs in one basket and think one person is a savior. I don't believe that at all. But Cornel West is giving a voice to the disaffected who have realized both parties stand against a humane society where people's needs are met and where all people have the opportunity to flourish. Therefore, anyone who lines themselves with those parties is really putting themselves against the working class. So the DSA is in name only socialist, and I'm sure that most of them haven't read any Marx. So, fine for them. Do your thing. You don't matter. You have no power, and we'll show you the power we have. And it's a long game. But we are, people who are recognizing, what is it, 100 million people didn't vote in 2016 for a reason, right? They're recognizing the system is fucked. And people wake up slowly. One last thing that I think is important to note. Anytime people look at history, they look at snapshots. We're taught snapshots. The American Revolution started in 1776. The Civil Rights Movement started in this date. These things took decades and decades and decades and decades before the snapshot that's in our history books. Same thing with the abolition of chattel slavery. It took decades. And then we look at it and like, oh, there was a Civil War and there was the Emancipation Proclamation. It's not how it happened. Those are two things that happened. And the same thing with what we're doing in building a working class movement outside of the two-party system. So, it may not upset their apple cart tomorrow, but it will surely upset their apple cart, and they've chosen their side. So they suck. I should have just said that.